Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, today we're tackling something absolutely fascinating. We are essentially going to reverse engineer the science of attraction. If you've ever wondered what truly draws people in, way beyond just physical appearance, you are completely in the right place. Let's get right into it.
So here's the big question. Can an average person actually hack their personality to become universally attractive? I know, it sounds kind of like a cheap marketing gimmick, right? But what if I told you there's hard, empirical data and historical evidence backing this up? We're going to dive into the exact framework of what makes someone truly magnetic.
Here's our roadmap for this explainer, just so you know exactly how we're going to answer that opening question together. First, decoding the attractive personality. Second, the Dorian Gray effect. Third, hacking your confidence. And finally, the ultimate transformation. Okay, let's dive right into section 1, decoding the attractive personality, specifically looking at competence and warmth.
To figure out what universally works, evolutionary psychologist David Buss went massive. He surveyed literally 10,000 people across 37 different cultures. And the secret to the first pillar, competence, is actually a little bit tricky. In a 2011 study, researchers took 100 women and showed them two different descriptions of the exact same person. One description leaned heavily into dominance, antisocial behavior, aggressive power dynamics that inevitably upset people and just make enemies. The other description leaned into prestige, and the women rated prestige as far more attractive. Why? Well, because prestige feels like earned status. It demonstrates high competence through hard work and diplomacy, completely bypassing that brutal dominance.
But here's the thing. Competence alone, not enough. You absolutely need the second pillar. A 2020 study revealed that kindness is the absolute most wanted quality in a romantic partner. This is the warmth component, and honestly, it makes complete logical sense. Think about it. In a relationship, more kindness equals fewer long-term fights. You need the competence to navigate the world effectively, sure, but you absolutely must balance it with warmth to keep people drawn to you over time.
Now, our personalities don't just exist in a vacuum, right? They're heavily influenced by the labels society slaps on what we do. Everyday occupations heavily dictate perceived personality, which we can clearly see from a recent date psychology survey. Highly attractive careers include firefighters, military personnel, and legal attorneys. These roles project immense competence and prestige. On the flip side, jobs in labor and hospitality are perceived as less attractive, sometimes even ranked below being unemployed. It's wild, but it just goes to show how much weight everyday labels carry when people are assessing your personality.
Which naturally brings us to section 2, the Dorian Gray effect and rephrasing your identity.
So if labels dictate how people perceive our attractiveness, how do we actually take control of those labels? Well, it all starts with the Dorian Gray effect. This is the phenomenon where a person literally changes their personality and appearance based on how others treat them, often because of stereotypes. The source material gives this wild example about the name Dan. If people hear the name Dan, about 40% will visualize a simple, average man, and because they hold that stereotype, they treat him like a simple, average man. Over time, Dan will actually start to act like a simple, average man just to fit the treatment he receives. We literally morph into the labels people give us.
So how do you actually hack this phenomenon? Look, you can't exactly change your name overnight, but you can absolutely change how you describe your daily life to completely bypass those negative stereotypes. Say you state your basic identity as a fitness trainer. People might subconsciously attach stereotypes to that, like being dumb, shallow, or narcissistic. But look at a rephrased identity. I help people become stronger and more confident in their bodies. Boom! You have instantly associated yourself with empathy, discipline, and leadership qualities.
Let's look at another one, basic identity, video editor. The immediate stereotype jumping to mind might be nerdy and antisocial. But if you reframe that exact same job as, I explain difficult topics using movie scenes and memes, you've completely transformed how you're perceived. You're no longer isolated behind a glowing screen, you are a culturally aware educator and a communicator. It is a brilliant way to ensure people treat you according to the positive traits you actually possess.
Now, what's really interesting about this next part, let's move on to section 3, hacking your confidence through niche mastery.
I know what some of you are probably thinking. What if I don't have an easily rephrasable job or a wildly unique hobby? How do I project an attractive personality then? That is where the rule of 3 comes in. Think of some of the most famous people on the planet right now. Cristiano Ronaldo. He's known as a soccer player, charismatic and hardworking. Elon Musk likes rockets, richest person in the world, very controversial. The reality is, almost any interesting personality, no matter how complex, can be distilled into just 2 or 3 iconic traits. You do not need to be a master of everything to be attractive. You just need a couple of defining pillars.
And here's the step-by-step process for doing that yourself. Step 1. Choose a unique niche. Literally, just find one thing you genuinely enjoy. Step 2. Master it naturally. If you master chess, you simply become known as the chess guy. But step 3 is the magic key here. Teach using analogies. Don't brag about your knowledge. Definitely don't use complicated, alienating jargon. Bring it naturally into conversation and explain it using simple analogies. This powerfully signals that high competence we talked about while completely maintaining that vital warmth.
Now, if you want a direct psychological tool to instantly boost your perceived competence, researchers in a 2020 speed dating study uncovered an incredible technique called Screen and Qualify. They showed men videos on conversation tactics, including this specific move. You casually mention a quality you value in others, let the other person indicate that they actually have it, and then express that you like their response. The men who went into their speed dates armed with this technique were perceived as significantly more confident and far more romantically desirable. It shows you have standards, which is incredibly attractive, all while making the other person feel uniquely valued.
Finally, we arrive at Section 4, The Ultimate Transformation, featuring John Newton.
Up until now, we've really focused on the what and the how. Now let's slow things down just a bit for a dramatic historical story that delivers the deeply emotional why behind all of this effort for personal growth. History remembers John Newton as a hero, but back in Phase 1, his youth, he was trapped in the life of a drunk, miserable slave trader. His personality was an absolute reflection of that misery. He had a big mouth, a total lack of refinement, and he was so insufferable that his own crew actually left him stranded on a desert island. And he was the captain. But then look at Phase 2. He met someone who changed everything, Mary Catlett, a clever, pure-hearted girl. He knew her parents would never let her marry a man with his wretched reputation. So, driven purely by love, he completely overhauled his life. He began studying Latin and mathematics just to prove he had the discipline and competence of a gentleman. He completely left the horrific slave trading business behind. In Phase 3, he transforms into a soft-spoken cleric, then a refined minister, and by Phase 4, he is an author and one of the most important abolitionist figures in human history.
Because of his absolute commitment to overhauling his personality, building that competence, and finding warmth, he literally changed who he was, and that changed his entire life. He achieved the ultimate payoff. He didn't just earn historical prestige. He actually married Mary. They retired together and spent their final peaceful years in a rural town called Olney. Oh, and as a direct result of that incredible inner transformation, he ended up penning one of the most famous pieces of music in history, Amazing Grace. So I want to leave you with this final thought. Is this type of transformative love long gone in our times? It is so incredibly easy to be cynical about modern relationships today. But the reality is, the science of what draws us together, competence, warmth, how we frame our identities, and the sheer confidence to grow, that hasn't changed at all. You now have the scientific blueprint right in front of you. The only question left is whether you are ready to apply it and find out for yourself.